Jake and Megan Silverstein came to see me in my office. Jake explained that his whole life he knew he was Jewish. It was part of his identity, but he never went to synagogue as a kid. After October 7th, he felt he wanted to learn more about his faith. He began to read and to connect with other Jewish peers, and one said to him, "They will hate you because you're Jewish, no matter how involved you are. So why not get the good out of your faith instead of just the bad?" Jason Calloway had grown up very involved in Jewish community, going through religious school, graduating Hebrew high school, but he didn't think it was important to him. He married, had 2 wonderful kids, and then October 7th happened, and he realized that Judaism did matter to him. He felt the tug. They have now joined our congregation and enrolled their kids in religious school. Carolina Gelber has been at Betham for years. She loved Judaism, married a Jewish man, has been raising Jewish kids, and then October 7th happened and she couldn't stop crying. She realized it was not just because of the inhumanity of what happened, but it's because it happened to her people, that she wasn't Jewish, because she hadn't just made it official. On October 7th, besides the horror and the heartbreak, the fear and the anger, Jews across the world felt something else as well. We felt our roots, thousands of years long, pulling us home. We wanted to be with family. We wanted to be where we belong, where we don't have to erase parts of ourselves to make other people feel comfortable. There was an ingathering. Synagogue attendance grew. Sales of Judaica grew. We felt at once fear and pride. Rabbi Elliot Cosgrove of Park Avenue Synagogue talks about there being 2 kinds of Jews, inspired by 2 moments that shaped Jewish identity in the Torah: the Genesis Jews and the Exodus Jews. Genesis Jews are the ones who hear God's call, those who choose Judaism for themselves as a personal choice and experience Judaism as a blessing. Then there are the Exodus Jews, whose identity is forged by persecution and the struggle for survival. He argues that before October 7th, many American Jews identified as Genesis Jews, comfortably rooted in their identity of choice rather than necessity. And how true is that? Weren't most of us Jews by choice, even if we were born into the faith? But the brutal events of October 7th have catalyzed a shift, compelling American Jews to adopt a more defensive posture, reminiscent of the Exodus narrative, where survival against external hostility becomes the predominant way we define our Judaism. This shift signifies a move from an identity grounded in divine blessing and cultural belonging to one shaped by external threats and the need for self-defense. The morning of October 7th, we had Simchat Torah services. Very few people were in attendance. Most had not yet learned the news, and it was a choice, and most opted not to come. But at our vigil on October 8th, hundreds of us came together. People were standing in the aisles, chairs being brought into the sanctuary because we all needed to be together. This is a pattern throughout Jewish history. We've always adopted the ways of the cultures that surround us. We've always wanted to fit in. Whether it's our ancestors asking Aaron to build the golden calf so we can see our God the way other nations do, Or 200 years later, are people asking Shmuel to appoint a king so that we can be like the other nations? Or more recently, in the Enlightenment movement, where European Jews shaved their beards, put on popular garb, and said we would now keep our Judaism to the home and be men in the street. With the implication, of course, being that to be a man and be a Jew is not the same thing. Deuteronomy tells us we are a nation set apart, a holy nation. Again, that word holy meaning different, separate. Again and again, we have tried to fit in, thinking that if we could just be like everyone else, they will accept us. Only a few weeks after October 7th, I was studying Daf Yomi, which is a page of Talmud. I study one every day. And it broke my heart when I read this because it resonated so deeply. On Bava Kama 83, I read, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel's words, "There were 1,000 children in the household of my father. 500 of them studied Torah, and 500 of them studied Greek wisdom. All of them were killed by the Romans. And the only ones that remain are me, who is here, and the son of my father's brother, who is in Asia Minor." Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel lived through the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE and describes the young children, students of Torah and Greek wisdom alike, who were killed by the Romans. His point being that the Romans did not distinguish between soldiers and students, young and old, nor those who received a Hellenized education who were fully secular, and those who were fully dedicated to Jewish study and life cycle. The Romans killed everyone. A Jew was a Jew. And I studied this part of Jewish history. We were not just Hellenized. Men were participating in the Roman gymnasium, a place where men wrestled naked. The Jews, not wanting to stand out, found ways to reverse their circumcision. That is the extent our predecessors went to in order to be accepted, and they weren't. But it wasn't just then. Jews were part of the upper echelons of society in France when the Dreyfus affair happened. Dreyfus was only tangentially Jewish. He was a Frenchman first who had served in the army. But once he was accused of betraying the state, even though it was proven false, the French were chanting in the streets, "Not death to the traitor, not death to Dreyfus, but death to the Jews." Jews were professors, lawyers, scientists, well-respected throughout the world. They were wealthy and powerful in Germany, right up until the Nazi Party rose to power. And still, even with that hate, so many of our people were in denial. They thought that this could not be happening to them, not in enlightened Germany. So many wore their finest clothes, some even buying first-class tickets to ride to their resettlement, only to die in gas chambers. In every age, they rise against us. It's been true since Egypt. Joseph was second only to Pharaoh. Our people were given fertile land and special standing, only to later be enslaved and vilified. We had dhimmi status under Islamic rule. We were doctors, intellectuals, poets, held privileged status, until we didn't. Throughout history, the Jewish story anywhere under foreign rule is that we were working hard, rising through the ranks of society, the whole time erasing and sacrificing aspects of our differentness, our separateness, in order to be accepted, only to have those from whom we fought so hard to gain approval turn on us. Expulsions, pogroms, book burnings. But there is another pattern in Jewish history as well. When the first temple was destroyed and we were in exile, we did not walk away from our faith, even though so much of our way of life revolved around living in the land of Israel, even though worship was centered around Torah sacrifice. In the history of the world, most communities that are conquered and colonized adopt the religion of their conquerors. Instead, we brought forth the prophets who redefined what it meant to serve God. We eventually returned to the land of Israel and rebuilt the temple, only to watch it be destroyed and be exiled once again. But did we abandon our faith or give up on God? No. Rabbinic Judaism was born, which taught us how to live outside of the land, how to pray and to gather without the temple as our point of centralized worship. We turned our dinner tables into an altar. You know, in 2014, a genetic study was done which taught why it is that we can so easily identify if someone comes from Ashkenazi Jewish descent. Why it is when you do the 23andMe, it says you're 99% Ashkenazi Jew. It's because all Ashkenazi Jews descend from about 250 to 300 Jews who lived between the years 600 and 800. Who lived between 600 and 800 years ago in Germany and the Rhineland. Just 300, just 600 to 800 years ago. How many expulsions, how many pogroms, how many of our people did we lose from hunger, plague, and hatred? But those 300 are ancestors of 80% of the world's Jews. That's 12.5 million Jews. And during this dark time in our history, when our community was decimated to such a horrific extent, the Zohar was written. This book totally rethinking our Jewish texts with a focus in on the soul, intimacy with our higher power, focusing on our mission to heal the brokenness of the world and the heavens. This book was brought into the world. Out of our darkness, we brought light. We are in a moment right now where the outside world wants to define for us what Judaism is. They are pressing us and telling us who we are. But we know who we are. We are a people who fight idolatry, who worship an invisible God whose name is truth, who asks us to love bigger, who has chosen us from all the nations of the world to be an or lagoyim, a light unto the nations. We are a people who resist the idolatry of lies of convenience, who refuse to bow down to tyrants, who have refused generation after generation to give up the room to people who hate us. We are children of Jacob, wrestling with God and man alike, children of Isaac, redigging our father's wells, children of Abraham, smashing idols and hearing God's call. It is that faith that gets us through. It's there, deep within us. The outside world tries to divine us through oppression, to make us Exodus Jews. And yes, being Exodus Jews gives us community and binds us. But I hope that we will stay Jews by choice as well. Choose to be Genesis Jews. Don't let others define who we are. We define who we are. We are a people chosen by God to bring light to the world. People who serve as God's hands in our broken world. People who see the path of Judaism, how to live lives of blessing. We know what to do when the world turns on us. It's to remember our roots, to double down on Judaism. And so, while many have begun to wear hats over their kippot, and so many students have felt unsafe wearing Jewish stars or shirts with Hebrew or hanging mezuzot, even more have begun to wear Jewish stars, have begun to celebrate Shabbat. Look around at the women in this room. So many of our members not only wear a Jewish star necklace, but they wear the Bring Them Home dog tags. outlines of the state of Israel, hamsas, pins, and more. We can be brave for those who can't. We can celebrate Shabbat and remember how Torah gifted the weekend to the world. We can read Daf Yomi, a page of Talmud every day, and join 350,000 Jews studying oral Torah all over the world. Or you can log into my blog about it. We can join Rabbi Barris's Mishnah Torah Challenge. We can volunteer with Tikkun Olam. We can come to services once a month, or if we already do that, twice a month. When we volunteer, when we vote, we can say a blessing and wear something that identifies us as Jewish. We can refuse to dim the light that God has given us, because dimming our light has never helped us, and it won't help us now. And we can remember that we have not lasted this long because of anti-Semitism. We are not here because of the Holocaust, because of the pogroms, because of the Inquisition, because of our slavery in Egypt. We are here despite those things. So let's not be defined by others. Let's define for ourselves what it means to be Jewish, as our ancestors have done it again and again. Let's fall in love with our faith. It's that love that has gotten us through all the hard times in the past, and that love has held us together. That love that makes us feel connected to our Jewish family no matter where we live or how we practice. And haven't we been taught that the only thing that can conquer hate is love? So you want to defeat terrorists, fight conspiracy theorists and anti-Semites? Double down. Double down on Judaism. Judaism is a blessing, not a curse. In the morning blessings, we thank God for having made us Jews. Let's be grateful and experience our Judaism as the blessing that it is. Gamar Tov. We're going to continue now on page 99. Will you hear my voice, you who are far from me? Will you hear my voice wherever you are? A voice calling aloud, a voice silently weeping, endlessly demanding a blessing. This busy world is vast, its ways are many. Paths meet for a moment, then part forever. We go on searching, but our feet stumble. We cannot find that which we have lost. Perhaps my last day is already drawing near, drawing close are the tears of parting. I will wait for you till my days flicker out, like Rachel waiting for her beloved.